Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The Cannabis Conference Capital Markets is going on here in Frankfurt. And now with me here is the first woman of the day, which is really exciting. And it is Marguerite Arnold, and she's the CEO of MedPayRX. And we want to talk about her lovely startup. Welcome.
Well, danke schön. Und danke schön für Ihr Englisch. Mein Deutsch ist ein bisschen schlecht, aber wenn man in Deutschland ist, man muss Deutsch lernen. So, aber
das ist richtig. Okay, that's why we focus on English.
Dankeschön.
And it's much easier.
Yes. Dankeschön. Yes.
Super. Your company, maybe you can give us in 3-4 sentences an idea what your startup is about.
Absolutely. So this is actually, MedPayRX is one of the first German cannatechs that is looking at the the automation of the industry as Germany starts to go online with digital records, with GDPR, with much more, I would say, enablement for patients in an environment where things are changing. You know, there are new drugs coming into the market. Cannabis is just one of them. So what we want to do is we want to create tools for patients, doctors, and the industry to make the authorization, payment, and processing of medical cannabis as well as other prescription drugs, easier for patients and doctors and cut costs for everybody else.
Ah, that's interesting. Okay, so you're not talking like, I would call it on the technical side, on the side of payment, of course, and to revolutionize how things would work technically in the future, right?
Richtig, genau. And for us, because Germany is a medical market only and is going to be that way for some time to come, we obviously have to focus on where the market is, which is prescriptions. Cannabis is going to be, for the foreseeable future, a prescription narcotic drug under German and European regulation. So rather than complaining about the fact that it's not Canada or California, we wanted to focus on creating a solution to enable patient access, to create tools for doctors, and for the rest of the industry, which is the insurance companies, the manufacturers, the distributors, the apothecas, the pharmacies on the ground here. We wanted to create tools for them that would make their lives easier and cheaper and more compliant.
Interesting. So maybe a stupid question from my side, but when it comes, let's say, to payment services, we already have credit cards, we have payments through health insurances. What is the major, I would call it difference, or what is your competitive advantage
Richtig,
in
genau.
comparison to that?
So most Germans, right, think that their system, and I'm an American, right? So far be it for me to criticize the German healthcare system, which is inclusive. However, when you start to get into new drugs like cannabis, when you start to get into orphan drugs that also treat people in this people who are very sick, who have Krebs, cancer, who have movement disorders, they are going to be taking drugs that are not really in that 70% of pre-negotiated, pre-bought drugs that most people in Germany take when they go to the doctor and get a Verschreibung, right? So most people don't really interact with this until you start to be chronically ill, which of course is where cannabis is being prescribed first in Europe and Germany specifically. So those people right now are actually facing access issues which are not very visible to those who are sort of outside of that space. But think of it this way, right? You're sick, you have cancer, you don't really know what kind of cancer that you might have, and finding the right doctor, number one, is difficult, even in Germany, and then finding a doctor who's willing to work with you on a range of drugs to treat your condition is hard. That's the first issue. The second issue is that because the approval rate with both the insurance companies and MDCA behind that is running about 60%, right? There is a clear need to increase not only the knowledge about this, but the tools to help the industry process the applications in a compliant way that saves the industry money and is also compliant with both banking and privacy law here that protects consumers and patients. So what we are talking about is creating kind of like a medical ripple that looks at a prescription as a contract and an order, and bouncing it through a system that's very much like banking. In fact, that's where this came from, to look at this is an order that is coming from the patient and the doctor, and he's going through all of the compliant authorization processes that is required here, but automating that and speeding that up. So we're never, for example, going to let a patient pay in cryptocurrency or even by credit card. We're going to do SEPA debit, because we can, and this is Europe. So we want to make it as easy as possible within the existing regime without introducing another cryptocurrency, and to create something that may be digital, which for, as you know, Germans are evaluating this whole digital online world. Very right. And when it comes to medical records, they have every right to be concerned. So what we are saying is we believe we are creating the first of its kind platform to enable the business as it exists today with some digital automation tools that is ultimately going to create, we believe, a much more flexible market for the people who need these kinds of drugs beyond cannabis the most and the quickest.
Okay, well, sounds absolutely logical to me. Now let's come to your, I would call it, business plan. How do you do now your business? What is the next step? What do you want to do 2019? How do you want to establish your company then in the market?
Absolutely. Well, this is not a flash by night, fly by night kind of startup. This was actually my formal EMBA degree here in Frankfurt at the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management. I believe that we are, in fact, the first Canatech business plan to make it through an accredited German university. So last fall we were sort of on the circuit, but this summer we were wonderfully accepted into a high-tech German incubator called Werk 1 in Munich, which is supported by the government and insurance companies here.
Oh,
so it was really fun. It was awesome, right? So we were actually accepted into Munich, and we were there for a couple of months. In the interim, since that program has ended, we were just accepted into Deutsche Telekom's Boost program for startups, which we're totally excited about as well.
I believe that, yeah.
And also we are now in the finalist for the InsurTech lab in Cologne. So we are absolutely trying to put this through the right, ich bin an Amerikanerin, right? I'm an American. But we know that there is, in Germany, this is a German startup, and we're trying to put it through the right way, to get it tested, to have the university look at it as an academic plan first and foremost, with business behind that. So our plan is to try and get into the market by this fall. We are seeking pilots right now, and we hope to be active actually by next year. So even if in a limited pilot, that is where our roadmap is taking us.
Fantastic. So how much money you have to raise, or you have raised already, and what is, let's say, the financial need to really roll that out?
Well, I'm not going to give you figures.
That's what I'm interested in, actually.
We have our first angel investor. We are taking a strategy that allows us, I think, to raise money not only through the private markets, the equity markets, but because we are so far advanced with our technology and our rollout, we're actually going to companies and saying, would you sponsor a pilot? Which is also a very common way to raise money here in Germany as you start to roll out a technical or medical process, procedure, or company. So that is how we're proceeding.
Okay, perfect, super. Let's talk about the general markets, because you have also a in-deep knowledge, I would call it, yeah? So how do you see, let's say, the development for the next 2 to 3 years in, let's say, worldwide, but also how do you see the development here in Europe?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I do cover the market as an analyst. I'm sorry, I'm going to stop for 1 second. I think this I've covered the market as an analyst and a journalist, specifically in the new era of legalization since 2014, and I've covered it from here. I think that there are clearly some interesting things globally going on, but that is not always the same in every region, right? And Europe is clearly different.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that what's going on in America is very interesting in the fact that it was the first to drive it across the line, but I don't think that the American market, to be honest, is a good indicator of where things are going to be going here. Neither is the Canadian market, at least for the short term. Why is that? I think that regulators here, as both on the medical and the financial side, are looking at the medical cannabis market as a separate segment for the European market. There might be an exception. Switzerland might do something odd. The British might do something odd, but they're Brexiting right now, so they're doing a whole bunch of odd things.
Doesn't matter, it's a market.
Interesting. But I think that what's going to happen is that there is actually going to be a focus on creating a medical standard here in Europe as a region, which is important because that has never been done before. So while it is an amazing opportunity, and there are many in the market, I think that companies who are coming here, companies who are establishing themselves here in Germany and across the continent, if they have a focus on medical, they're going to be taken much more seriously, and they're going to be able to get into the market. that is the other advice I would give to companies. Don't think that you can come here and think this is going to be a prosumer, recreational Canada type market. For the next couple of years, absolutely not. It is going to be how well you reach consumers who are called patients, how well you integrate your product into the existing debate, which is also a regulatory discussion, how well you reach consumers who are female patients. That is the biggest moving part here. So if you want to get into this market and you want to be effective, you've basically got to be a cannabis pharmaceutical company and be smart. And so if you're going to come in and play cannabis risk in the different European territories to get into the game, great. But then don't expect, for example, to be able to go into Switzerland and raise money in an ICO for your German grow facility. That's never going to happen here, and the regulators are not going to let that happen.
Absolutely.
So.
That's right. So, but still, the future looks bright, right?
It's very, very bright. I think it's a wonderfully exciting time. I think that clearly the market has started to move. It's not going to go back. So, for example, in the United States, there was a big forward movement in the states, in particular California, where California got medical passed at a state level in 1996, and then the entire discussion got pushed back for almost 15 years. That's not going to happen here.
Yeah.
So I think it is on the table, it's going forward with authority, and the companies that are willing to step up to the debate on both the financial regulatory side and the medical side are the ones that are going to be the clear winners here.
Super. Perfect. Thank you very much for the interview. That was lovely.
Lovely.
Vielen Dank.
Vielen Dank.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, there was Marguerite Arnold, the CEO of MedPayRX. And you heard it, the future looks quite good also here for Europe, even if maybe things are a little bit slower. But as she mentioned, this is definitely a future market here, especially also England. Probably Denmark is maybe the next, and also Switzerland. But the point is, the market is great. The market is growing. This is just the start for it. And also with their medical payment system, we will see how that goes next year. This is a startup. But of course, we always need I would say, intelligent people.
Innovation.
Exactly.
That's right, exactly.
Inventing new technologies which are helping to reduce costs, and because this is the key to success always, because finally everybody has to make money. So thanks for watching us. Check out the company. Bye-bye from Frankfurt.
Cheers.